What is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. I'm going to go over some of the most important stories of today and the last 24 hours. Also, I'm going to lead into what we will be talking about later over on our sister channel, Marfoogle TV, where we have a 2-hour live show. There is a lot of speculation on what is really happening, but I will tell you what the narrative is that they are telling us right now, and I will also give you my opinion on that eerie speech. I actually stayed up last night and watched Vladimir Putin's speech, and there was some pretty eerie spots in it. It was, I believe it was 3 hours long. It was very, very incredibly long. As far as, you think you're tuning into a 30-minute thing, and it ends up being much, much longer than that, and your brain gets filled with all of the other stuff that's going on in their country. But there was some very, very odd things happening even during the speech. In fact, they say that they hacked the speech. It stopped for many. A lot of people were actually trying to watch it last night. In fact, last night on our show, everybody was, counting down the time until he spoke. And the reason why people are like, well, who cares what he says? The thing is people are expecting any one of these speeches right now before the year anniversary of the invasion to be him declaring something, right? But first, let's talk about some of the other crazy stuff going on. China furious after U.S. warns arming Russia. It says the U.S. is in no position to tell China what to do. It says diplomatic relations between the U.S. and China have deteriorated further on Monday after China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs snapped at the Xi administration for suggesting that it has information suggesting that China is considering sending weapons and ammunition to Russia to help its conflict against UKR. I believe even folks in Vlad's camp have said that. So we don't know if that's Ganda yet, but it seems like it would be the next step here. It says Secretary of State Antony Blinken made that accusation Sunday on CBS, where he said that Chinese companies have already been supplying Russia with non-lethal aid and may do more. It says, quote, the concern we have now is based on information we have that they're considering providing lethal support, and we've made very clear to them that they would cause a serious problem for us and in our relationship. Blinken asked, and it says when asked what lethal aid China might deliver, Blinken said weapons. Again, this is from Blinken. It says that remark drew a furious comment from China on Monday, but not an outright denial, even as China's top diplomat was expected to travel to Moscow this week. It says it is the U.S., not China, that has been pouring weapons into the battlefield. Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Wang Wenbin said, and it said the U.S. is in no position to tell China what to do. We would never stand for finger pointing or even coercion and pressurizing from the U.S. on our relations with Russia. Basically, if you think about it too, when they are Russia's allies, as far as they are concerned, what Vlad is doing, they're not condemning the absolute action of it. They have even said that they understand, both sides of this. As far as them sending them weapons, this is something that is incredibly likely, but even more likely in the future. And anyone who is watching this and waiting for a bigger war to escalate, that they would actually be joining Russia. Many people, it is hard to grasp to think of a world war situation because we have lived so many years where any war that was going on was a small war over here or a small war on the other side of the planet. We're not used to having it involve us and possibly involving us directly. I mean, people are chattering about the draft and actually being drafted towards war. This is something that is a possibility. And if people think it's not a possibility, then they're not following what's happening here. Even if this is all closed-door meetings and it's actually a distraction from this or distraction from that, this event could still happen and real people would be involved. The thing is that this isn't like an event that happens in a grocery store or something and 10 people are involved. This is a massive event that the world would be involved. It already is. They're picking sides right now. They are loading up countries with all sorts of gear. They have forces, which was confirmed on Vlad's side, which, again, our side has said that forces are basically surrounding Russia in all of the countries bordering it, including the 101st Division, digging trenches in Romania, and of course in Poland. There's all sorts of things going on. So when China is saying this, of course, it's very eerie, because if you look at what is happening right now, if you looked 50 years in advance and you looked back and some teenage kid was writing an essay about what is going on right now, there are historical moves being made. Anybody that watched that full speech last night could tell that there's going to be some things going down here. I want to point out, I'll talk about it later on the show, but Vlad in his speech even said that they are going to be making low-cost housing and basically almost no rent for anybody that is joining the war cause in the Department of Defense. If you are doing anything for this conflict, essentially, that they want to be able to make it easy for you to get houses. Others have already said that they're basically going to be building cities for people in the military, which I think is pretty telling of where this thing is going. It's definitely not ending in the next month, and it's all going to be over, and Vlad's going to tuck tail and run. So this is not going in a good place. And all of us who have been saying this since day one, the second we get vindication, it's not going to be a good thing. By the time we are vindicated, things will be very bad, and you may not even be able to watch me. And I hope that I am not vindicated. I hope that I am wrong. And I hope that people can comment all day and says, see, there's no war and you are completely wrong. I sure hope so. But most of you know, and most of you have a gut instinct that is telling you absolutely otherwise, regardless of who is running it, regardless of whatever evil, shadowy creature is doing it, it is still very, very possible. And it looks like it is moving forward. And it very well could be a part of all of the other different agendas that are going on around the world. But number one, it's been obvious for absolutely years that Xi and Vlad are done. They don't want to be number 2 and 3. They want to be number 1 and 2 at the very least. They do not want the U.S. to be number 1. That much is very clear with their own words. It says U.S. believes Russia carried out an intercontinental ballistic missile while President B was in UKR. First of all, yesterday I went on and I was telling you guys, this was absolutely just weird. For the fact that we sent our president there to UKR, supposedly sent him there during a conflict, even if they had some sort of guarantee or this or that, why in the world would they risk the president going there instead of a Zoom or a Skype meeting in the capital that they are saying that they are going to overtake and actually bomb the crap out of? Even if they had guarantees from Vlad, that is the stupidest thing that our administration has ever done, and that's why I don't believe it. It doesn't make any sense. No one with common sense would say, oh, let's send our president over to UKR for a surprise visit, and we won't tell anybody until afterwards. It doesn't make any sense, and people should be asking questions. I'm not denying it happened. I'm saying it should be questioned to the high heavens why in the world they would do that. And they have, this reason or that reason, but anything can be done over a meeting online. There's no reason to send our president there unless there was something that they absolutely did not want to leak out, that they wanted to say face to face in a room with no bugs, in a tiny closet. Who knows? Whatever they were doing there was secret. So something that tells me something big is about to go down. They even said that they put him on a train for 10 hours out of UKR, and then he ended up speaking with Poland as well. So something is going on here. The delegation that went there, they were working things out. Or maybe I don't know, maybe they were handing over briefcases. Who knows? But what I will say is it was extremely sketch, and I have no idea what anyone was thinking. Maybe Millie was in charge of that. I don't know. But they said during this visit, they said that a possible Sarmat was launched. It said that Russia carried out an intercontinental ballistic missile test on Monday while JB was in UKR, according to a report, but warned that the U.S. in advance. So you're saying that our government called them up, and they even say now that Russia gave them some sort of guarantees that they wouldn't mess with them, which makes people go, oh, okay, that's why. So yeah, they had guarantees. So while they were doing that, they were testing a Sarmat missile, and they're saying, oh yeah, no, we guarantee you, but we are going to test a nuke while you're visiting. And then we were like, oh yeah, sure, we're cool with that. What? It says and so you know that it very well was probably something completely different than what we are being told. It says that Moscow was told several hours before President B arrived in Kiev that he would be there and were not to attack the city during that time. Oh, so they were just like, okay, sure. And it said the bold visit, designed to emphasize U.S. support for UKR as the first anniversary approaches, was not publicized in advance. It said that, but on Tuesday, two sources told CNN that Russia has tested an ICBM known as Satan II while the president was meeting his UKR counterpart. So this isn't just a normal ICBM. This is the Sarmat, or the Satan II. This is the one that if you go to the website that allows you to set the size of the nuke and hypothetically, hit areas, this is the one that takes out multiple states. And they were testing that. They say that it may have failed or something else. It says the test of the heavy Sarmat missile, capable of delivering multiple nuclear warheads, would have been highlighted by President Vladimir Putin in his Tuesday State of the Union speech. Officials believe were it successful. Okay, so the only reason I think it's failed, from what this says, is that if it was successful, they would have talked about it. What they did talk about at that meeting, which we will go over the full details tonight, is that they are getting out of the last nuclear agreement, which is the new start or whatever. So this is this is getting absolutely insane, and this is like we're at the precipice of stupidity here. And then hackers claim to have caused Russian websites broadcasting Vladimir Putin's annual address to go offline. So I don't know if this was a message to them, or it was to hit their morale that, U.S. or somebody else or any other country could go in and hack the website, or they say if it's Russian, whoever it was, to hack it and to take that down. One thing I do know is that a lot of folks on both sides were actually knowledgeable about this speech happening. For some reason, there was a lot of speculation about this speech. Given that it's 3 or 4 days away from the anniversary, I could see why people are spreading around like, hey, there's going to be a speech. Because normally nobody pays attention to Vlad's speeches. We watch all of President JB's speeches, sadly. We sit through all of them, and we try to sit through all of the Vlad speeches, and we try to sit through even the Brazilian leaders and the Chinese leader stuff, because we have to be knowledgeable about what is happening. But last night's was very, very eerie. And of course, they said that they hacked it and took it down. It said online broadcasts of Vladimir Putin's annual speech were interrupted on Tuesday after an apparent cyber attack. Now, I just want to point out, I was watching it and I had no issues. But people had certain issues with different ones. There were different channels translating it, and some of the channels were really horrible as far as the translation goes. And what's even weirder is all of the headlines that I'm seeing today, none of them reflect. It's like they're skipping over really, really creepy and eerie things, and they're going right to the nuke threat, or they're going to this or that. He's basically making like a city for military, and as far as what others have said is that they've already started building these houses. They're basically going to house and employ and pay, and they're going to do whatever they can to have pretty much anybody and everybody join the military. So it is true that they're mobilizing like no other. They're bringing in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of soldiers. They already have 500,000, and they're planning to do more. And that they're actually creating infrastructure so they can do so. So that we'll talk about later on the show, again, over on our sister channel, Marfoogle TV. And then if you need links or references or a bibliography for today's show and this short shareable video, then make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com. Also, while you're there, you can stop by and go to marfooglenews.com/prep, and you can actually get freeze-dried food that lasts 25 years. So again, make sure to go check that out. But there's more to cover here. It says that Putin ups tension over UKR suspending the START nuke pact. It said that Russian President Vladimir Putin suspended Moscow's participation in the last remaining nuclear arms control pact with the USA, announcing the move Tuesday in a bitter speech where he made clear he would not change his strategy in the conflict in UKR. And in his long-delayed State of the Nation address, Putin cast his country and UKR as victims of Western double-dealing. Now, this is something that they have pointed out, and it is true. The entire speech highlighted that Western nations are the adversary. They pointed out that Western nations are the enemy. And by the way, almost all of these got a standing address, just like our State of the Union. Everything he said, they were standing up and cheering. Of course, I mean, like he pointed out a lot of things that you would think if this was our leader, you would have a lot of American folks being like, this is a patriot. I guess people would be patriotic about what he was saying. They really do support him, and they show that. The numbers, they say that they actually support Putin. And I'm not saying I do, but I can say that if you have a president that talks like that, like a normal person, I could see why people would relate to a person that's basically like a regular guy talking to him and saying these guys are BSers, they're lying, this and that. It's in fact, it's a lot of the reason why we like T-Man, because he wasn't a politician. People don't like the fake politician thing. Over there, they work a lot differently. They swear on TV. They do all sorts of crazy stuff. But last night, he pointed out over and over again and drilled it into their country, whether it was propaganda or not, he was drilling it in that Western nations are the enemy. NATO is the enemy. So their entire country has been told, and again, a lot of this is filtered out through our media, and they put flowers on it and then show it to us, but they are prepping their country for war. At the same time, China is doing the same thing. They're putting in all of their media. They're cutting out any kind of Western media, influences in China as well. This is stuff we've covered over the last 2 years. They're even putting out op-eds basically saying that this is not going to end well, that the U.S. is going down, China's going to be number one, Russia and all of these other countries are going to take its place. So get ready. We're headed for a crazy ride. Putin said, we aren't fighting the UK, our people. Putin said his speech days before the conflict's first anniversary on Friday. It says the UK, our people, have become hostages of the regime and the Western masters, which have effectively occupied the country. The speech reiterated a litany of grievances from the Russian leader has frequently offered as justification for the widely condemned military campaign, while vowing no military let-up in a conflict that has reawakened fears of a new Cold War. It says on top of that, Putin sharply upped the ante by declaring that Moscow would suspend its participation in the so-called New START treaty. Now, this is what people are making a lot of news about. He did say it's basically on pause. He didn't say we're absolutely done. And I think maybe that was because he was trying to convince his people, don't be scared. Hey, we're just pausing this until we figure stuff out. That's how it seemed communicated, at least from the two different translators that I saw it. Again, it matters when you watch something like this, who is translating it and how they actually communicate what is being said. If you look at the transcript, it's very cut and dry. They are pausing this treaty, which many people do not care about. They don't care about a nuke treaty. They just think it's puffing their chest, and it probably does work. If you think about it, other countries, if they do take them seriously on this, they're going to go, okay, this is where it's gotten nuclear, and we're going to stop helping. It says Russia aims to absorb Belarus by 2030. This is another kind of common sense thing. We actually made a comment on this last week. It says Russia is allegedly planning to annex Belarus and absorb it into the Russian Federation by the year 2030. According to the leaked presidential documents, the secret dossier reportedly dated to the summer of 2021 was entitled Strategic Goals of the Russian Federation in Belarus and set out 3 possible approaches, short, medium, and long term, to annexing Belarus and restoring a piece of historical Russia. Now, I want to point out in this speech, they talked about history and ancestors a lot. And I think people shouldn't look past that you should actually look at the value of what he was saying. He says that we need to look at our ancestors and use real world experience. What he's talking about is he goes, we need to look at how we did in World War II and do that again. He said it he said it like straightforward. He said we need to look at our history, our actual physical experience in this area, and we need to use that. If you remember in World War II, he surprised Germany with Hitler. He surprised him with 35,000 tanks. So it's something that I've mentioned, that we have all these numbers and they say, oh, they have only this much and this much. It's part of a war tactic to surprise your enemy, to look weak when you are strong, to look strong when you are weak. Again, Vlad is a bad dude. But it is definitely a campaign to make him look like an idiot and to basically have the American people not worry about it, to have NATO folks say, oh, Vlad's nothing to worry about. The UKR people with their, drones and, hand-me-downs, they're kicking their butts and they're taking numbers like you've never seen. The ghost of Kiev is pulling in and just wiping out 6 jets each and everything else. But in reality, you now have the real elite Russian military, which again is it's not a U.S. military, but it's certainly up there. And they are now facing the UK military with older tanks, older this, older that, which again, that probably was doing a great job when they were sending in conscripts off the street of Russia that were 50, 60 years old. But now you have the elite guys with Terminator tanks, brand new weapons, drone technology, and jets going over the border. It's not going to look good for UK. And once the UKR soldiers are gone, who is going to fill their shoes? So if you look at who's going over there in person and why it doesn't make sense, something is going on right now. And it's definitely not good. Sensitive U.S. and these documents, again, they say that they're going to absorb Belarus. The point is, he said it in a subtle way, but he basically said, we are going to have the power we had back then. We need to have our historical areas. We had places stolen from us. He's essentially confirming that he wants to get all of the areas back. So I bet from his side that he's communicating, we're going for the Baltic states as well. If you are Russian and you watch that speech, tell me what you think in the comments down below. Let me know what you think hearing that speech and being able to speak it. It says, again, those plans were reportedly drawn up by Russia's presidential directorate across borders. So that could be fake. We don't know. It says if the documents are verified as authentic, it would confirm that Vladimir Putin has ordered Russia's intelligence services and armed forces to prepare to annex yet another country. But again, Belarus's leader is like somewhat friendly. So what are they going to do? Are they just going to absorb? That kind of answers your question if Belarus is probably going to join the fight. Belarus said that it will only join and have troops in UKR fighting if they are attacked. That's why I said watch Belarus. If some random event where they get attacked by UKR, you saw that coming from a mile away. It says sensitive U.S. military emails spill online. The U.S. Department of Defense secured an exposed server on Monday that was spilling internal U.S. military emails to the open internet for the past 2 weeks. You want to say somebody's stupid? It says the exposed server was hosted on Microsoft's Azure government cloud for Department of Defense customers. And it says which uses servers that are physically separated from other commercial customers and such can be used to share sensitive but unclassified government data. The exposed server was part of an internal mailbox system storing about 3 terabytes of internal military emails, many pertaining to U.S. Special Operations Command or USSOCOM. It said the U.S. military unit tasked with conducting special military operations. It said, but a misconfiguration left the server without a password. You are kidding me. It said, but a misconfiguration, like they booted it up and it said, hey, set a password or a swipe pattern. And they were like, nah, I just want to be able to open the computer and see it. Is that the misconfiguration? Said it left the server with military emails without a password. It says allowing anyone on the internet access to the sensitive mailbox data inside using only a web browser. Now, we know from previous email stories and a whole lot of things that you could have harmless emails that you think are harmless that have connections and that have things. The thing is if whether they're military or Hillary, you have regular emails being used for extremely top secret stuff all the time. So I sure hope that this wasn't somehow on purpose. It says Honoreg Sen, a good faith security researcher known for discovering sensitive data that has been inadvertently published online, found the exposed server over the weekend and provided details to TechCrunch so we could alert the U.S. government. So these guys found out before the government even saw it. And then, of course, some side notes on East Palestine. The mayor says President B, UKR visit, biggest slap in the face. Our audience said this. I wanted to point this out because our audience was saying, wait, he's visiting there, but he hasn't visited Ohio. Of course, it says the mayor of East Palestine, Ohio, on Monday said that President B's visit to UKR was the biggest slap in the face as his own town continues to deal with the chemical fallout from the train coming off the tracks. During an appearance on Fox News, East Palestine Mayor Trent Conaway was asked to give his thoughts on President B's surprise visit to Kiev on Monday. Well, he is in Poland for an international trip. Says this was the biggest slap in the face, and it tells you right now he doesn't care about us, Conaway told Jesse Waters, the host. He said, so he can send every agency he wants to, but I found out this morning and one of our briefings that he was in UKR giving millions of dollars away to people over there, not to us, and I'm furious. Yeah, President's Day in our country, he's over in UKR, he added, so that tells you what kind of guy he is. Well, I don't think it's his choice, and I don't think he really is in power of anything going on. So, again, it's kind of like blaming a sock for stepping in poo, right? Or again, a shoe for stepping on a slug. It says Ohio train derailment, Norfolk Southern ordered to pay for cleanup costs. So one good thing has come out of this if you live there, and I hope that this is good news. It says U.S. authorities have said that Norfolk Southern, whose toxin-laden train derailed in Ohio town, must pay for the cleanup or face tough penalties. Norfolk Southern is now facing multiple lawsuits filed on behalf of residents, many of whom were forced to evacuate their homes. The EPA, which has the power to fine or sanction firms over the environmental concerns, said that Norfolk Southern would, quote, pay for cleaning up the mess, and they created a trauma that they've inflicted on this community. And some say that they've inflicted on a chunk of the United States. And then, of course, a side note, T-Man, former president, is expected to visit East Palestine. So I guess T-Man's going to get there before President Joe. That's kind of sad. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are saying, well, that kind of makes sense. Again, make sure to join us over on Marfoogle TV, our sister channel, and join us for all of the news. This is only part of it, and this is the most important stuff. I'd highly recommend having extra water, having extra food, and watch all of our friends over at marfooglenews.com/friends. If you don't know how to do something, learn it now, print it now. That's always a good idea to be safe. Print any kind of do-it-yourself type of instructions you think you're going to get from Google, and print those out if you have a printer. That's something to do just in general for a good go bag would have printed materials of anything that you might need, because you're not going to be able to look up what berry to eat in the woods on Google if Google is down and everything else. There's a lot of stuff going on. We are now 3 days away from the anniversary. We don't know if something is going to happen, but I would say look at what is happening in the long term and in the next year. I think that the world is about to change. So be safe, be prepared. Thank you, everybody that made it to this video. Make sure to share this out far and wide. You are the only way that we get out to the outside people. Again, you are the only way that this gets pushed out to new people. So make sure to share this out with a friend or family member. You guys are the reason why this information gets out. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. We'll be live in about 15 minutes or at 8:30 p.m. Pacific, 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.